Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to today's healing call. I am super excited to be here with you and to be holding this space for us to be able to drop in together. So much energy has been moving for me personally, really for months, but lots have transpired over this past weekend, just since last week. And I can feel, that there's all this opening that's available to us and all this healing that's available to us. And we're really at this place of being able to rewrite some patterns and heal karmic patterns so that we can start creating a different reality for ourselves in our lives, in our relationships, in our business, in all these different areas. And so I want to drop in with you today and support you. And, I truly believe that when we come together on these types of calls and in these types of communities and circles, one person's healing is everyone's healing. And I could just do a bunch of talking and a bunch of sharing of what I'm noticing, but it feels really powerful for each of us to use ourselves as an opener and as an activation for the whole collective. And so that is what I desire to do here today. And I do want to say a little bit before we actually drop into that part. So I want to just start with a little grounding, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about what I'm noticing currently with energetics, and then we'll drop into some laser healing and coaching. And so I invite you to get comfortable wherever you are. Just start by taking a few deep breaths. Really feeling, where are you right now? Your body's here. You might have some of you here listening on the call, and you may have other parts that are doing other things. So just notice. Yeah, and I really invite you, if there's some parts of you, maybe you're on your lunch break or you're in the middle of clients or doing something, rather than making those parts of you wrong, just include them. So noticing them and including them. Like, okay, yeah, I'm pretty present, and there's these parts of me that might not fully be present. So just allowing that to be. One of, the ways when we're on these type of healing journeys, it can be really tempting to want to get all of our pieces on board and to want to heal all of the pieces and, want them to be a certain way. And also, when we do that, there's this way that we're not accepting them as they are. So just allowing them to be as they are. Yeah, and you can notice how that feels in your body. So just giving yourself that permission. You can notice where it allows you to settle in more, where it might create more space, more opening. Maybe it brings up emotions. Just noticing. Good. And then as you settle in, I invite you to bring forward your intention for being here today. What is it that brought you to this call? What is it that you desire to receive from being here? And if you can, imagine that intention like a balloon. You can imagine it being a balloon. And then just see if you could imagine pulling that balloon down into your belly, into your solar plexus, your power center. And imagine taking the string that's holding the balloon and planting it into the bottom of your sacral chakra and letting it go down into your roots. Good. So I invite you to take one more breath. And then just starting to come back into this moment. Beautiful. So once again, welcome. Thank you for coming and for being here. The themes that I'm really noticing moving through right now are these themes around power and presence, and also passion and purpose. And so I want to talk a little to that and about that. And right before I hopped on the call, I was checking Facebook, and I shared an image under someone's comment on one of my posts, and she had put a burning heart, a burning heart. And I was like, yeah, and if they had a burning womb too. And I was looking for images of wombs, and the first gift that came up in the search, I want to read what the message was, because it feels really like a divine orchestrated message for us. So it says, that's what I know. That's what I am. And only by admitting what we are can we get what we want. So only by admitting what we are can we get what we want. And I know several of you, follow me in my Facebook community and my email. And so I want to just share a little bit about what I've been noticing for myself over the past week. And so let me just see how much I want to share. So what I had personally been noticing, I've been working all of these layers around really rewiring my system. And so I've been talking about this a lot in the Soul Inspired Success community, in my emails and whatnot. And this past year, this whole past year has been this huge initiation and this opening for me personally, but for all of us as a collective as well, where we have been opening to a new energy, to a new feminine energy. We've been healing our feminine energy. And, as we do that, there's this way that the feminine becomes the leader of sorts. And I don't mean this in a feminist kind of way, because it's really not that. It's more in this way of even just the female body, right? It's designed to open. It's designed to open. It's designed to receive. It's designed to give life, to birth life, right? To mother. And in that, our feminine energy, which women have feminine energy, men have feminine energy. So this isn't about man or woman. It's more about the feminine energy as a whole. The feminine really is the opener and the leader. the leader of healing. And so we've been healing feminine energy and feminine wounding. And as this new feminine energy arises, then what has been happening is it's been opening the masculine energy for healing. And again, this is the masculine energy in each of us. So it's not about woman or man, but it's more the energy that's, within each of us. And so what the old, this old structure, what it looked like is looking outside of ourselves for support, even looking to authorities, looking to the rules, looking to the systems and structures that we've been taught. And as we have claimed more of our feminine, what that is what do we really want as an individual? What do we really need as an individual? What are we as an individual passionate about? What are we feeling? Our feelings are our gateway to our soul. They are messages from our soul. They are the thing that connects us back to us, to our individuality, to our essence, to our soul. And as a society, we've been taught not to feel, that it's weak to feel, that if you feel, you might hurt someone else, or feelings are manipulative, and all of these things, right? And so what I know for myself is I've been working all of these layers, the past really few years, around allowing myself to fully reawaken to my ability to feel. And that can be subtle external things like my client's energy, the energy around me, all the way to the deep internal feelings that I hold within, within my heart, within my womb, all of this. And what I've noticed is the more that I feel, the more powerful I become. And I used to really be afraid of my emotions and of my feelings, and I knew that that was my power. I've known this for a really long time. I think in 2013, that was when I started teaching Reiki, and also an alligator came to me. And alligators are all about emotional healing. And it was super scary. It was a super scary experience. And at the same time, it was a super powerful experience. And that was whenever I started, giving myself permission to even start working on claiming this, right? Claiming this as a power, claiming this as my superpower, allowing myself to have that power. And it's been an interesting journey. It's been a journey for sure. And as I was even just looking at the date, as we were dropping, before we hopped on the call, it's 11/13. And a year ago is whenever my cat escaped at the vet, which, again, those of you who have been in my community for a while, you're with me on this journey. It was a huge thing and a huge heart activation. And also it was this huge power struggle, a power struggle with my teacher, with myself, with my boyfriend, with all the things. And lots of blame and shame, and lots of emotions, and a lot of emotional purging. And through that experience, I also, the cat was gone for 2 months. And as I kept working the pieces and staying present, when I started to take my power back, actually the day that he came back home, I did a meditation to take my power back and reclaim my power. And I got the call, and 2 months later, my cat was found. And he's now, back home with us. And it was such an emotional journey, and again, I've been so afraid of this. And at the same time, it's the thing that heals us. And going back to, that message that I read at the beginning when I started talking about this, I want to just read it again. It says, that's what I know. That's what I am. And only by admitting what we are can we get what we want. We know what we are by what we feel. And I think the reason that we're so afraid of feelings is because we can have so many layers. We can have so many layers of feelings, and there can be all these external feelings of that can be sort of egoic, or they can be manipulative, or they can be young. It can be younger parts of us that are kind of tantrumy, or it might be fear. But if we go deeper, and this is where it's really being willing to stay with your process and turn even deeper into your process. So when we're willing to keep going inward and we start to discover what we're really feeling, what we discover what's true, what's true for each of us as an individual. And when we land on that truth, we become a magnet for what we want. And so as I've been unraveling, this power piece and this control piece within myself, at first I found myself in this struggle with it, right? Like, okay, well, I don't want to be that. People use their power all the time to manipulate other people or overpower other people, especially in business world. I've been overpowered by coaches. I've had coaches use their power to get me into their programs, right? And then they couldn't deliver. They couldn't meet me. All of this, right? And so there's a way that I found myself at this place of not that. I don't want to be that. I don't want to be controlling. I don't want to be powerful. And what I realized is by doing that, I'm actually controlling myself and overpowering myself, right? Because I'm containing parts of myself in not wanting to be that. So it's like I withhold the masculine energy within me. Like the patriarchy is a bad thing. Power is a bad thing. Masculinity is a bad thing. So let me contain that and not be that. And by not being that, we're allowing the external world to be more of what it is. So I want to just invite you to take a breath into that, because this is sort of deep, We can say the same thing about other emotions, right? It doesn't even have to be like power, but say someone is feeling really sad. If you're wanting to move away from that because it's uncomfortable, then there's somewhere in you that you're also moving away from. And so then the invitation here becomes, okay, so maybe I'm really sad, or maybe I really am controlling, and I actually this weekend I had a process where I was like, I am controlling. Okay, can I just let myself be controlling? Because James wanted to put on some music, and I was like, oh, like, yes, you can put the music on, and yet like really I didn't want that music on. I wanted my music on because it's like more soothing and healing for me, right? It's like I can actually drop in and meditate, and what he puts on is like more kind of like drum and bass techno. It's kind of higher energy, it's not relaxing to me. It actually kind of stresses my nervous system a little bit. And right, I was like struggling with this. I'm like, God, I am freaking controlling, right? And I don't want to be controlling. And what I noticed is I'm like, so I'm going to let him do what he wants, right? I don't want to be controlling, so I'm going to let him do what he wants. And what I noticed is then in that, like, I can't relax, right? I can't relax because it's stressful to my system. And it's not even about him, but it's like literally the sound is like stressful to my system. I'm like washing dishes and I'm like, you know? And so I came to this place. I'm like, God, I really just want soothing music, right? Like that is going to feel so much better to me. And so it was like, okay, can I just be controlling and own it? Yep, I'm controlling. I am. And I know what I want. This is what I want. This is what I need, right? To be open. Because when I'm in that stress mode of listening to that music, and I'm sharing this example about music, but this is about so much more than music, right? Like we do this in so many areas. So when I'm in that stress mode of washing the dishes, listening to his music, and I'm like tensed and closed and contracted, I'm not open, right? So I can't be my fullness. When I stand into this is what I need, this is what I want, it actually allows me to open, right? So I can be more loving, I can be more playful, I can be more present. So yes, I am controlling. And look at what that control does. It allows me to be more present. And then what does that ripple to? So I want you to just take a few breaths here, and I want to invite you to notice, like, is there any areas in your life, where maybe you are on this edge of not that? So whether it's control, anger, sadness, fear, we can do this with fear too. Um, I noticed, when I went to Colorado with James, there was so much fear. The dog was scared. He was scared. I was in fear mode. And it was like, I just wanted to get rid of the fear, right? Um, so it's like, I don't want to be here. There's so much fear. But if we really just instead, on that trip, there was a lot of resistance too, right? But I would have really just dropped into I'm scared. Can we just be with the fear? That would have probably changed everything, right? Because then we're adding presence, and presence is power. When we actually turn towards the thing, it creates ripples. And so, yes, I want to invite you to notice, take a few breaths and notice, like, where are you pushing away? And what if you just gave yourself permission? So you don't even have to know exactly what it is in you, right? But if you are pushing away grief, can you just own, okay, maybe I'm sad? If you're pushing away fear, can you just own that? Maybe I'm afraid. Pushing away control. Okay, maybe I'm controlling. And I want you just to breathe that in and notice how it feels in your body. Yeah. What I'm really present to is there's like this um, softness. So it's sort of like a gentle opening, not like a huge expansiveness, but it almost feels like a door is opening or something, especially in the lower chakras, the root, you know, giving ourselves permission to be here, to be all of it. When we're willing to turn towards these places in ourselves and be with them and love them and hold them, it also creates space for the people around us that are maybe struggling with that same energy or running from that same energy. Yeah, so I want to just check in and see for those of you who are here live, if you have any questions or if you want to share anything that's coming forward for you. I also want to just talk for a second about how this pertains to our business, because I know several of you are, business owners and entrepreneurs of sorts. Okay, hold on, Michelle. Choo-choo, unmute. Hi.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, so much of what you said is really applying to me right now. And I know I had messaged you yesterday, but it's really coming forth like so much of that wounded masculine energy of the needing to be right and wanting to control, and also judgment, like judgments and um, drawing conclusions without asking questions. And this is what I feel is being done to me.
Mm-hmm.
you know, making me wrong without really having all the information, drawing negative conclusions about me. So it's really coming forth very strongly in a lot of different interactions in my life right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for sharing. So, what I just want to say to that is, um, I've been experiencing some of that too. And what um, what I'm noticing is really finding our truth not from a logical place, but from a place deeper in our body.
Hmm.
So for me, that deeper truth, it comes from my womb, of like really turning deep within and feeling, okay, what do I need? What is going to serve me and allow me to stay open? And
Yeah, and
go ahead.
well, what's happening is I'm just walking away, from the people because it feels like I'm not being valued. And so it feels like I have to just get away from them in order to value myself.
Hmm. Yeah, and so it might even be trying on, like, this is what's true for me right now. I don't know how to stay present with you. I need to be alone to be able to stay with myself and then come back when I'm processed or when I'm ready. Like, I need to be alone to process.
Hmm.
Um, and that in itself, even when we're willing to claim that for ourselves, like, it can shift a lot of energy.
Right.
So, yeah, like for me, because I had this situation come up in a relationship. I wasn't going to really share this, but I'll just share it because it feels of service. So, um, last week I had an issue come up with um, the coach the teacher that I've been working with for 2 years. And this really isn't a new issue. Like, it actually happened before my cat ran away. And that was like one of the reasons I felt the cat ran away, because I was so swirly and like so out of myself when I brought it to the vet, because I had this thing that was triggered with that teacher. And anyway, so here we are a year later, and I was in her programs for 2 years, and then I was getting coaching in her company, and I asked to leave. Something happened, and it just felt right. I was like, you know what? Like, it feels like it would be of service to me to work with the healer that I've been working with outside of your company. And it really felt truly true for me in my body. And I was grounded in it. I wasn't afraid. Like, it felt really true. And so we had a conversation, and she was kind of triggered, and she didn't know if she wanted to let me leave and all this stuff. And I stayed really present with myself, and I went even deeper into what I needed and um what would be service of the whole, for the
Right.
collective energy. And what ended up coming forward for me is what I really wanted was this piece to be addressed. It wasn't that I really wanted to leave the company, but this healing that needed to happen. It's like my soul is such a stand for doing the work. Like, that part of me just wants to do the work and not be about money, or not be about power, or not be about all these different things. And also, like, my shapeshiftery, feminine couldn't stay with that, right? So it's like I have my warrior, my masculine energy that's like, this is what needs to happen, and I'm gonna like be a stand for this. And in her energy, my shapeshifter couldn't stay with my masculine. The feminine kept leaving. And so I was like, I don't know how else to do this, right? How do I honor myself, and how do I open? And so as I started to see like what I actually needed for myself, she ended up reaching out to me and invited me to a private retreat. Like, I didn't even do anything,
Wow.
because I stayed in the process, and no financial exchange. Like, she wants to work on this piece. And I had to get super, super clear in myself that it's not really even about me or her. It's like this collective piece of doing this healing work. And yes, it's about us, right? Healing some pieces for ourselves, but it's a much deeper thing. And it takes radical willingness to stay with and keep going towards, okay, what is really true for me? Like, where is the truth? Not fear, you know? And it just so happens, as I like looked at the calendar, I'm like, oh my God, like, this is freaking crazy that all this started a year ago to the date. And so for me, I had to claim, like, okay, I'm controlling. I had to also claim, like, maybe I am manipulating this. I had to also claim, like, I don't know how to stay. I don't know how to do that. I don't know if I can. And I'm willing to try, because that's what was true for me, right? Is that helpful?
Yes, I mean, that is just almost a perfect reflection of some of the interactions I've been having. And it's it's just that what I want is like a mature approach. When there's a conflict, I want for myself and other people to have a mature approach instead of this casting blame, just a coming together, a cooperation, a negotiation, or to figure out what can work for both parties, without going into all of this other stuff that happens.
So, if you're really wanting the mature approach, like I would almost go towards like that place in you of like, how can I be that?
Okay.
Because there's a way, I was doing this with her too. Like I kept telling her, like, when we're having the conversation, and I was kind of aggravated because we're having the conversation and I knew she was going to keep reflecting parts back to me. Like she's like tracking me, right? And she's like, okay, it's interesting that you want me to be more open, and it's interesting that you think I'm and I'm like, you're driving me crazy. But after I was kind of sitting with it, and it's like, okay, I want her to be more open, so how can I hold that energy within myself? I want her to see me, my warrior, right? This part of me that is like such a stand for this work. So how can I see that part of myself even more and stand with that part of myself even more?
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. You're doing good work. It's hard.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay. All right. So we have a comment in the chat box. Okay, so you were talking about owning your power. As you said it, I was thinking about it going into to it. I got a call at that moment from a doctor I work for asking me if I would do a service that I didn't offer, but I've done before. I'm uncomfortable with it, and I told him so. I said I can offer 30 minutes, but not longer. He said it wouldn't be worth it. So I said, I'm sorry, but if I can help in any way with the service I do provide, I'm in. I got off the phone. It was 11:11, and I thought how I felt kind of bad for not assisting, but I owned my power right there. I'm going into the control of my own power and not letting others take it from me. That in itself is empowering. Yes. Yes. And when we do own our power, when we take a stand for ourselves, it's scary. It's super scary. Another example, me and James have been talking for months about moving to Colorado, and, I've been doing healing work like specifically around that, right? Like I was like, okay, well, I'm going to start working on like aligning myself to that. And we planned a trip. We went to Colorado. He took time off of work. um and when I got home, I was like, I don't want to move there, and it took everything for me to tell him that. And then I was so scared. I was so afraid, and I had a lot of fear come up even after telling him. And a couple days later, he ended up having this big process, this big process around, at first he was angry at me, and he didn't know if he could stay in the relationship. Maybe he has to move without me and all this stuff. And, you know, I've been doing all this work within myself. And so I was able to stay really present, to stay really present with my truth. Rather, the old way, I would have been like, okay, well, I can try to make myself do that thing for you, right? I can be what you need me to be. I'm willing to sacrifice myself. I'm willing to leave myself. And I'm not there anymore, right? So I stayed really present with my truth, and I held space for him to be in his own truth. And, um, it actually, our conversation ended in like us probably having the most intimate conversation we've ever had, and being able to even come to this place of letting go of like old things that have been coming up for a long time since we've been in a relationship together, like 7 years. And so when we stay with ourselves, and when we're willing to, staying with ourselves, it doesn't mean that you're going to feel empowered and you're not going to feel afraid. Sometimes the fear is still going to come up, right? Or sometimes, you might be challenged or whatever, but sometimes you change your mind, right? So with this teacher, I told her I had to leave the program. And now, I'm going to Ohio to go do some healing work this weekend. And I told her I would stay because it feels of service. It feels of the highest service for myself, for her, for the collective. And um, there's healing that needs to happen. And so it's like, yes, this is going to be super uncomfortable, and I'm willing. I'm willing to do it because this is what I'm made for. Um, so it takes being willing to be in the emotional fire of it. So Michelle says, it's difficult when each person's truth is different. Yes, it really is. It is. And there's a way that when we can stand in our truth with an open heart, because sometimes what happens is we stand in our truth. And this is what I used to do. I would stand in my truth and then my heart would vacate, right? My feminine would leave. Then you're closed, you're in protection mode. And so the other person's going to mirror that to you. Just like, my teacher a year ago, she was mirroring that to me. She was like, well, I don't have anything for you. And, maybe I can give you something in front of everyone, but not privately, definitely not privately. You can pay me like a lot of money for a session. And that hurt, it really, really hurt. And at the time, I wasn't energetically available, so really she couldn't give me anything. We have to be present to be able to be met. If we're not with ourselves, how can we be met? We can't. So, um, yeah, so yeah, it feels like this is a good time just to see if anyone needs some support. We can kind of drop in and do a little bit of healing work. Okay, let's see. And I'll unmute you. Hi, love.
Hi. Hi. Okay. So this has been great. The everything that you're talking about is just really powerful, and I'm trying to apply it to my situation in terms of as I'm negotiating the terms of our separation agreement. How can I stay present to myself and also create space for him to um, I guess, have his process. I guess there's part of me that's resistant to that, but I know that I have to create that space. Otherwise, it's going to be we're gonna end up in the worst possible scenario because we just can't. If we
Mm-hmm.
can't work it out ourselves, it's going to be going through court and spending all this money and all this time and anxiety. So just thinking how I can um, start that creating the space for that to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's just drop in.
Okay.
You want to just take a few breaths
Yeah.
and just start by noticing where your energy is and what you're noticing in your body.
So I have a lot of tension in my uh, like just under my chest, like just below my chest and belly, And then also in my feet, I feel like some swirling energy.
Yeah. It sort of feels to me like your energy is outside of you, like it's
Yeah.
in front of you. And so, yeah, let's just see like where maybe just start by noticing um that fear of like actually bringing your energy back in.
Okay.
Like where is that in your body or the resistance?
Yes. So the fear feels like right by my behind my belly button, and that's where it's strongest, and then it kind of goes up into my chest.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been trying to be mindful of it, of integrating back in. Um, like this morning, I was able to uh, realize that I was suppressing my anxiety in my belly, and I tried to at least open up. I felt like I could open up a little bit of like a diffuse energy, kind of
Mm-hmm.
like a gaseous sort of state, as opposed to like solid water or gas, like a steam kind of, but not hot.
Mm-hmm.
And I did feel it kind of dissipate a little bit at that point, and that I had like an image of my heart in this pink, misty energy, like closer than it was last week, like closer to my chest, still outside, but closer to my chest.
Mm-hmm.
So that felt like progress. But when I think of trying to do the negotiations with him, it brings up a lot of tension. And then I go outside with myself again
Yeah. So,
for that fear of him invading the space with his anger.
well, the reason that it feels like he's invading the space is because you're not in yourself. You're not in your
Right.
space.
Right.
So, um, yes, it's going to feel like he's invading your space, because you're actually in his space.
Oh,
Like,
right.
you can see it's like all this energy is in front of you. And if you turn towards yourself, it's sort of, what it looks like to me is like vacant.
It looks like what?
Vacant.
Vacant. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. So what is, if you can go to like that middle point of the place in between, right? So, like where right before you get to like the empty feeling or that vacant place, kind of on
Mhm.
the edge. Like if you can find that edge between the two of like your energy going out in front and then there's like an emptiness.
It's hard for me to have awareness of the emptiness because I do feel like that tension inside
Mm-hmm.
my belly. That's the predominant thing that I notice,
Yeah, so go
and
towards
my
the
belly into my
tension.
chest.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. Go toward what?
The tension.
The tension. Okay. Feels like spherical,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's more solid. Kind of like it's bracing itself. Like, don't try and remove me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what if you just let it know? It's like we're not going to try to remove it.
Okay.
We don't want to make you do anything.
Okay. It's relaxing a little more.
Hmm. This is like sort of part of the pattern, like not wanting to be forced into anything or forced to do anything or controlled to then leave yourself.
Yeah.
And it's, it's in a way of like, well, I'm going to try to control things, right? So that it's not, not what your mind is thinking, but energetically, that's what's happening so that I can stay safe.
Yes. Right. Like that, what came to mind was like battening down the hatches.
Yeah. Yeah. So just validating your system, like, yeah, it's okay. You're doing what you need to do to protect me. I see you. Yeah. And what do you notice? So as that starts to soften, what do you notice about that peace in your solar plexus? Oh, you're on mute, Carrie.
Yep. Sorry. I was saying it feels, I don't know if you heard what I said, it feels less defensive, but still wary. It's feels like a young,
Yeah,
scared part.
that's what I noticed too. It's like scared.
Yeah, very scared and wondering, what is. I feel like there's some opening, curiosity if there could be a better way that I could stay protected but not dissociated from myself.
Yeah, so maybe just check in and see, like, what does this piece need? So it's scared. So what do you think that would help it to feel more safe?
Feels like saying like it needs to like cry,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and that um, it's felt alone for a long time. So
Mm-hmm.
happy that someone's that I'm coming to visit.
Yeah. Yeah, so what I would suggest is seeing if you could create some space just to be part of yourself. Give yourself permission to cry if you need to cry.
Yeah, like it's been holding it together
Yeah.
for so long, and to just release some of that. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe after that things will open up. There'll be other possibilities.
Yeah, and when we're working with these pieces, um, it takes patience, it takes willingness to keep being present, so
Yeah.
there's a way it's like our mind wants to think like, okay, well, if I give myself space to cry, maybe something's going to happen, right? And then
Yeah.
that in itself can like almost take us out of ourself again,
Right.
because then we're tracking for like, okay, well, maybe he's going to change or maybe something else is going to happen. um, so it's this, you know it takes retraining our energy and also growing these parts of ourself up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for being willing to um, just be in the hot seat and offer yourself as healing for the group.
Thank you.
Hmm. So let's see, Jennifer. So you can't get your mic to work. So let's see what I can offer you this way. So my hometown just burnt to the ground and my heart is aching so bad for the things lost. For myself, yes, but I feel the fear, anxiety, and overwhelm for those back home, family, friends. I'm a bit overwhelmed that I'm having to disconnect from the media part of it, keeping in touch privately. I feel like I just need help too. I'm having a hard time bringing my energy back. It feels way out, and then I feel like I'm sorry for not giving others what they need. Okay, I feel like what you just said to Carrie Ann, I need to let myself cry. I've been away all weekend, not allowing myself to feel, but I feel like my energy needs to release. I just need to cry it out, open the bottle, and pour it out. Yeah, so, you know, one thing that I've come to see for myself is that my process and being willing to be in my process for myself is healing for the collective. And so, just like I was sharing this piece, with my teacher, um, there's a lot of healing that's happening, right? And I can feel my personal pieces around it, and I can also feel the collective pieces around it. Like, this is a lot of collective wounding, like this patriarchal wounding, right? This power struggle, this masculine, feminine energy, and the um, the old dynamics. It's needing to reconstruction, and so what I know for myself is when I give myself permission to go deep within my own process. So, of whatever I'm experiencing personally, or even if it is, um, the people around me experiencing something, when I give myself space to be in the process of that for myself, whatever it's bringing forward for me, what happens is then I have more energy to offer, right? I have more energy to give. And it's calls like this where what I'm giving is my experience and my presence, and it's pretty powerful. And so I would definitely say trust what you're feeling for yourself, and definitely make time and space to be in the process for yourself, because when you clear for yourself, you're going to have so much more space to then hold for others. In this whole year, I've been in this type of process where I'm working the layers within myself that are up for collective healing, and it's big, big healing. This is not easy stuff, opening your heart and really aligning to your soul and being willing. When I reached out to my teacher and told her, like, I need to leave the container. And then, I was in deep meditation and I was like, oh my God, I'm supposed to stay. It was like, oh my God, I feel so stupid. And like, really? Is this the thing that I'm going to have to do? And it felt vulnerable and I felt naked, right? And also it felt super clear. And I was like, okay, I'm going to message her. And then I felt stupid and vulnerable and naked, and at the same time, I'm at this place of being willing to be the vessel, being willing to do what source is asking me to do. The way that I used to hold my Reiki sessions is letting that energy move through me. And, as I was holding a client, I would move to whatever position that I was being told to move to, or I would say whatever. I remember like having to get to the place where like I would say what I was being shown, or I was being told to say, right? And now I feel like I'm on this level of like living my whole life like that. And it's scary, it's super scary. And at the same time, what I keep seeing is when I'm willing, it makes huge ripples, huge ripples. And sometimes, my process looks like watching a lot of Netflix. Like I've never watched, usually, I mean, the past, gosh, years of my business. I wouldn't even turn on the TV during the day. Like to watch Netflix during the day, not on the weekends, was like crazy. In the past couple of months, I've been watching Netflix, and I've been in this healing process of like, okay, I just need to like not think about things and I need to just let this energy move through me. And what's fascinating is the show that I've been watching is called Heartland, and it would align to my process. So I kept being shown parts of myself throughout my whole process. And also like, I would get messages, like once I decided to stay, the next episode I watched, the guy, Heartland, they have this farm and there's two daughters. Well, the older daughter, she was dating this guy and he was the ranch hand and he wanted to leave the ranch and get another job. Well, he decided to stay. And I'm like, oh my God, you can't make this shit up. That I keep watching these episodes that are like corresponding so divinely to my process. And so, yeah, it's like this willingness just to trust the process and trust what you're being asked to do and what you need for yourself. And when we fully surrender to that, to staying with ourselves, to staying in our own process, it moves mountains. It really, really does. Yeah, so Jen says she felt vulnerable and wanted to hang up on the call, but I needed you to remind me what I need to do. Totally. Hold space for myself. I need to get grounded, then maybe I can help those who need help in whatever way I can help them and better. Thank you so much for holding this space. You're welcome. It's truly my honor and pleasure. Yeah, and I mean, some of my most vulnerable days, I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know if I can like do healing work. Like, is there even a point to my work? And then I'll have clients tell me how powerful our sessions were, right? And I'm like, I don't even know if I have anything to give. And it's because, right, when we're that surrendered, when we're that empty of ourselves, then we really can let source move through us. And that's what I believe when we're at these places of tenderness and vulnerability. And yeah, sometimes we need to be held. And the truth is, if you're needing to be held, allow yourself to be open, allow yourself to receive, because that too, that is someone else's magic, right? So just like my teacher reaching out to me and inviting me to this intimate retreat, like part of the healing that I need is to be able to help her heal. And a year ago, I was so afraid of that my cat escaped at the vet, right? Because my energy was so swirly and crazy, and the cat had diarrhea in the car and all the things. And now here I am, willing to be a stand for that because have been doing my work. I've stayed in the process, and I'm willing to stay with what's true for me. So, anyone else before we hop off and close for today? Okay, so what I want to do in closing is just invite you to get present once again. And you can take a few deep breaths and just notice the places in your system that are activated right now, or maybe the places where something was moved for you during this call. And just see if you can invite those closer, allowing yourself to see the truth, to claim the truth of what you are right now in this moment. So it doesn't have to be forever, right? It can just be momentarily of like, right now, I'm exhausted and I have nothing to give. So I'm just going to take the rest of the day off and let myself cry. That's my truth. Maybe it's, you know what? I'm controlling and I'm going to let myself be that for this moment. Allowing yourself to claim the truth of what you are right now. And I just want to read this one more time. That's what I know. That's what I am. And only by admitting what we are can we get what we want. So I love you. So grateful for each of you who came live, and for those of you who are listening to the recording. Allow yourself to claim what you are in this moment. That's where it starts. It starts with this moment. It doesn't have to be some big, extravagant truth of, oh my God, I'm a heart healer. I am blah, blah, blah. It's just simple, right? We start with the simplicity of like this moment. And then see where that brings you. And if any of you here are listening to the recording, if you need any support, feel free to reach out to me. If you're interested in doing some work together, we can always set up a call and talk more about that. I'd be so honored to support you. Sending you lots of love and